Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to Share Good Health Talk. Today is working on healing power, the power of emotional detox, something that is wonderful that we need. We're going to talk especially about thriving beyond cancer. This month, we have a breast cancer and women's health and all cancer awareness. And it's every Tuesday in October. So I guess this is will be our almost the last one. So, but today we're gonna do a very special presentation with someone that been going through, and they're not only going through cancer, but also surviving and helping others to thrive beyond cancer. And I have the pleasure to introduce to Cora Post from Arizona and giving her a warm welcome and it is yours, Cora. So we all yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Helena. So, thank you, everyone who's here, present, live, or if you stumbled upon this video later in the week or any time in your life, I'm glad you're here. And you're not here by coincidence or by mistake. You're here for a very important reason. If at some point in your life you've gone through trauma, tonight we're talking about the effects of trauma and how we can get over those traumas. And it doesn't have to always be cancer, but this month we've been concentrating on cancer, mostly breast cancer. But the cancer that I was diagnosed with was pancreatic cancer. And it is known that it is a very difficult cancer to survive. And again, as a reminder for our Facebook audience, I am only giving my story as it happened to me. I'm not giving any medical advice in any way, just simply sharing my story. And so when I was diagnosed, I went the alternative route. I did not do Western medicine, I did not do chemo. My hair never fell out. And it sounds like a miracle story because of the type of cancer, and it was already stage 3. However, this is where the beauty of I take a deep breath because I'm so grateful that when cancer came to my life, it was more of a wake up call. And it helped me to realize that I needed to take inventory of my life. And the first thing I needed to transform and change and work on was the love for myself. So I went through it in 4 months. I was done. I used alternative medicine, Chinese medicine. I juiced for 41 days, more than the 21, but I was under doctor supervision, pure green juices. And I also did acupuncture and a very special meditation. And that helped me get through this, not just like Jillian says, a survivor, but a thriver. Because after going through the pain, the physical pain, the emotional pain, during that time, I made a very huge decision. And again, everything changed my life because I decided after 35 years also to get a divorce. So I went through many trauma, right? Many things that bring trauma to the body. However, as soon as I was able to realize how important our attitude is. So I'm driving home from my doctor, which is about 2 hours away. I'm here in Yuma, Arizona. And I asked him, he's my Chinese doctor. They diagnose totally different than Western medicine. And I said, Doctor, if I went to a Western doctor right now and I didn't have to wait for months for all these tests that need to be done, what would they tell me? He says, well, they would tell you that you need to get on chemo. And because of the situation, you could be 3 months, could be 6 months if you make it. If not, that's probably as much as you have. Um, so I'm driving home and something came to me that really helped me. And this is what I do to help others now. I said, well, a doctor says that I could live probably 3 to 6 months. But what if I'm on this road? It's a very lonely road, long stretch, and there are a lot of semi trucks. So my brain started saying, what if I got hit by a truck? What if in 2 days, or what if in 2 hours something else happens and it's not even cancer that takes my life? And so at that moment I said, you know what? I've been waiting for many years for my happily ever after, hoping that someone else would change so that I could be happy. And it wasn't happening. So at that moment I said, I'm going to be happily ever after now. And so what if I only live 3 weeks? I will not leave this body an abused or uh, depressed woman. I'm going to totally change all that, because every day I'm going to pretend like it's my very first day. Like I was born that very first day. I wake up and I'm like, wow, I get one more day of life. What can I do today with this day? And it could have been the juices, it could have been the acupuncture, it could have been anything. But when I finally got those tests done with the Western doctors, because I did it mostly for my family, they were very concerned, and not everyone believes as I do. So they said, you need to go to a doctor and get everything in order. And so I did. And when they did the test, they couldn't find anything. And the
Oh,
confused. And she looks at me and says, what did you do? And I was very honest. I told her what I did. And she says, I think I can't be your doctor anymore. And I understand liabilities. So I needed to just step away. And then my Chinese doctor finally, after 4 months of treatment, juicing, like I explained, uh, he says, you're done. And he doesn't say you're cancer free. Chinese medicine, they don't even say the word cancer. He says, you are totally in balance. Your body is free of all toxins. And it's been almost about, I want to say about 10 years. And I do get checked every year, just in case, to have that, especially for my children. I want to make sure that they know I'm always checking myself and I'm okay. So when all that happened, I decided, there's a reason why. It was around, I believe, so many stories that we hear about famous people, people from all walks of life that get cancer. Excuse me, that was one of my daughters calling me, especially the type of cancer I had. And they don't make it. And so we don't know. We don't know why when it's our turn to go. But all I did was follow that protocol. And it so happens that when I go with Dr. Ronnie to her island and I tell her my story, she says, wow, everything that you were doing during your treatment is what we call PEVI from the detox. So again, when Dr. Ronnie hears all that, she says, Alice, that's what she calls me back then, but I'm Cora now. She says, Cora, you would be amazing at being my emotional detox therapist. And so
uh,
I said, I would love to do that, because the number one thing that brings us down is our emotions.
and I'm glad you say that, it's I lived that myself, and by having 2024 at the beginning of January, start the year, and telling me that my heart was stopping, that it can stop anytime and I need a pacemaker. And I understand that the first thing that hits you is your emotions. And
Mhm.
for me, it was like my life is gonna depend on a little device, and I can take that. And it took me a while to I worked all kind of holistic treatments and things and mentally, but I think a lot of has to do with your attitude too, towards it. But do you agree with me that most of the times what kills you is not the illness, it's your emotions? Because
Correct.
immediately your world goes crazy and I say, okay, that's the end or what? But then also it's a possibility of the a great opportunity to live a better life. Do you agree with me?
Yes, 100%. 100%. Because before the cancer, I was a very anxious person. It didn't seem like it from the outside. I was able to camouflage a lot of the things that were happening inside of me. It's kind of felt in a way like living a double life. I would smile and I'm always, God bless you, sister, God bless you, brother. And I'm always happy and trying to make everybody happy and serving and being of service, but we forget about ourselves. And so what cancer did to me was remind me that where am I in this? This is going on in my body. Nobody could do the work but myself. No.
Exactly.
And so what I allowed in part of my life was the emotions that I um, suppressed. And believe me, I'm like we said in the beginning, we're not doctors. We're here just sharing our story. But from the experience and what I have seen now, working with so many different students that I have with cancer, a lot of our illnesses stem from emotion that is trapped, from trauma that is trapped, and something triggers it, and then diabetes, autoimmune diseases, cancer, all of this stems from a place of fear at times, right? Because who isn't going to say that for a moment? It is scary to think that, oh my goodness, am I going to make it through this? So I decided to not even think about that. I said, you know what? I didn't even know anyway before they said I had cancer. Like I said, it could be a truck that hits me. I could be in a car accident, and the cancer had nothing to do with me parting, right? So if we live every day present, and one thing, and I know, excuse me, I know a lot of us do a lot of reading, and it's everywhere, right? That we can research Google and find so much information. When you live through it, it's a whole different experience. So what I discovered in my own body and what I was up against, that anxiety that I had was always the fear of the future. What's going to happen? Where am I going to end up? Am I going to grow old and still be suffering and hurting and always in pain and always in trauma, fight or flight, right?
Yes.
Depression comes from the past. I should have done this. I could have done that. Why did this happen to me? Why didn't I do that? And the brain just doesn't stop, right? So then
Yes.
the emotions, we start believing the stories in our head, and then the emotions come in. And before you know it, we're stressed out. And doctors have said it, it's out there when they've done studies and they say stress is the number one, either sometimes they say killer or they say stress is the number one reason for heart disease, for this disease. So I asked myself, stress only exists in our head. Stress
It is.
exists in our thoughts. We create it. So if we are so powerful to create the disease or to create the stress in our head, then we are just as powerful to
Yes.
reverse it and to stop that way of thinking. So my mission now in the and the things that I do with my students, and most of them that come to me come because they have cancer and they knew that I did. They want to know what I did to change that. Or some of them may not even be sick at all in that way physically, but they feel that something is missing, something that they can't put their finger on. And so they look what we would call normal, right? Like they're not sick, but yet there's still like something missing, and so they want to know. So the most important thing that I share with people is start looking at life as though it's happening for you, not to you. So
Exactly.
cancer
Ex-
happened for me. Cancer was my cancer. I turned it around so it could be my gift. I'm very blessed, and I'm not saying that that's the norm, but for me, that's how I took it. It was the one thing that helped me open my eyes to myself. It I had to face that fear head on. I was always afraid of dying. I was like, oh no, we don't want to leave our children. We don't want this. And we just, it was a ball of fear all the time. But once
Yes.
you see that, hey, if this is going to happen, if there's a possibility that it's going to happen, let me just live life. Let me just enjoy it and stop thinking about that I'm going to not make it. And
And we live so worried about for the best moment to do things for ourselves, to wear something, to everything, and tomorrow doesn't exist, at least not yet. We
so,
only got today. So I learned that was my lesson, that be more present and and just enjoy the best of today and whatever it is, it is. And I was from then on, I say, whatever that I can die anytime, and that's fine with me,
Mm,
as long as I enjoy this moment, you know.
yeah.
And
And trauma, speaking about trauma, because that's the subject that we're on tonight, how does trauma affect our bodies? And we're not even aware of it. Sometimes we're not. We are so used to a certain pattern in life, a certain behavior, or a certain lifestyle that we don't even notice, or we want to ignore it because it's too much to face. Whatever the reason is, trauma could be anything for anyone, and there's no measuring. uh, don't ask me what book it is, but I did read somewhere where this woman was from a concentration camp, and she wrote about the power of that mind, and how what someone can feel when they diagnose them with cancer, and someone can feel when they get a brand new car, and someone comes with a key and just scratches it all the way down. And you would think, why? Why would someone be so upset? It's just a car. This is cancer. But trauma is trauma. And we can't compare that I'm suffering more than you, or my trauma was bigger. There's no such thing. There's no comparison. Everyone feels the weight of their own thoughts and their own experiences. And we need to remember to be compassionate, caring, and to know that when we can barely understand ourselves and deal with our own emotions, how can we possibly think that we're going to know how somebody else feels?
exactly.
We need to have that for ourselves first, because that's where it starts. So when trauma, there's people who've suffered trauma in their childhood and they block it, forget it. And then something happens in their adult life that relives it, brings it back up, and the body remembers. The body remembers the stress, remembers the feeling, and it'll start acting as if it's in danger, right? When someone doesn't feel safe, it's a whole different thing. The body is only in survival mode if it doesn't feel safe. So that trauma hits in, and it's stuck to the body has memory. It'll remember, just like if you close your eyes and you remember when you were a little girl, Helena, and let's say your grandmother, an aunt, your mother, somebody cooks your favorite dish, or it's Christmas or whatever you celebrate, and there's that aroma in the house, or a favorite perfume that maybe your mother used or someone. And as soon as you feel that, or you smell it, or you sense it, it takes you back. It takes you
Yes,
back right to that moment.
yes,
So
definitely.
just like it does it with all the joy and the happiness, right? It also does it with the trauma. So we can really choose. It is a choice. We can choose and say, wait a minute. Oh, I can feel the tension building up, and I don't like that in my body. It's not good for my health. So we can choose to change our thoughts.
Definitely. And what are in your experience, why would you recommend someone that will get diagnosed today with some illness? What would be your best advice for them right now?
Hmm. Thank you for using that word. I always use the word invitation. I invite people to look into, because if I give advice, ouch, right? But we'll use that for now. If I give advice, I would tell someone to first start falling in love with yourself. Check in with yourself. Whatever illness it is, it doesn't matter the grade or the severity, our body is telling us something. So sit with yourself for a moment and just reflect what it is that you, like you said about wearing that favorite dress or that special dress, and we save it for a special day and we never wear it, right? Right. So, so at that moment, obviously the fear wants to kick in. Obviously the pain wants to come in, all of that. But if you stop for a second and just reflect and say, what is it that I really want? What is it that my life doesn't have to end tomorrow? Or maybe it could just be a chronic disease that is not life threatening at the moment. But remember this, always check in with yourself. What does your heart tell you? and don't always listen to the stories. The brain just wants to be in charge because that's all it knows how to do. It's just trying to protect you.
What can we invite people who has relatives suffering from it's a critical situation, illness, and they have a negative attitude? How we can help our loved ones to get out of that?
Okay, that one's
Or-
also very challenging, right? The person who gets diagnosed with the
yeah.
chronic illness, it's not the only one suffering through it, right? It's their loved ones, their caregivers. First and foremost, whoever the primary caregiver is, they need to give themselves a little bit of time first, always. It won't work. They'll be burnout because if we just give to the other person and we don't take care of ourselves, we're going to get drained. You cannot give from an empty cup. So, first and foremost, the person who is helping or giving some kind of care, primary care to the patient, to the family member would need to take some time out of the day. It doesn't have to be all day or a full day, just some time out of the day for themselves where they can again recharge, whatever it is that helps them recharge. If it's a bubble bath, if it's sitting quietly listening to soft music, if it's reading a favorite book, or just going for a drive for a minute, just for a moment, anything that can recharge their battery so they can come back to now their duties if they are the caretaker.
Do you agree with me that many times we were no educated to about self-care, and there was sometimes the self-care sounds for us like a wasting time, that we don't appreciate that time that is ours, is for us, is our love ourselves. But for some women is especially, it's so hard to be able to take that time and to say, this is for me, for reading, for listening music, do some yoga or whatever. And how do we can help our fellow women to get to that self-love?
Yes. And if any men are watching, some of you are not the exception, but you're right, Helena. Most of the women, and it also depends on your culture.
Yes.
Many cultures are very similar: Japanese, Chinese, Hispanic. A lot of the cultures where the woman is the one that's supposed to do almost everything, right? And there's even little memes where the husband says, well, I'm going to help you, and like, what do you mean you're going to help me? We do this together, right? So the woman has been programmed to be the caretaker, the doer, the one in charge of the kitchen, the cooking, the cleaning, all the household duties. And then on top of that, if they're also working a 40-hour job, then they still have to take care of that. And then here comes the family member that's been diagnosed, or and then maybe they still have children or they have grandchildren, and you're kind of sandwiched in between all these different generations. The most important thing is we've been programmed that way. We were created and in our environment to believe, well, that's what I'm supposed to do, and I have no choice, and I that's my duty, that's the right thing to do. We have been so programmed to believe that we don't. Why would I sit down and listen to soft music? Why would I sit down and meditate? Why would I sit down and read a book? There's laundry to do, there's floors to mop, there's other stuff to do, right? I need to cook. So that's the way that it makes it seem like we're selfish.
Yes.
Well, she doesn't
Yes.
care about anybody. She only cares about herself. But that's the stigma that I work with, is trying to get that reprogrammed. Like, let's break that brain, let's take away all of that, let's clean it all out. Because honestly, the best way that you can be of service to someone, the best way that you can make a difference in your family's life, especially if you're the mother, single mother, or you're the mother and you're the go-to for everything. They can't find this, they can't find that. You're the one that has to resolve most of the issues. If you don't take care of yourself, how it's such a deep class. And believe me, I do 3 months just of this alone in my classes to help these women reprogram themselves to not feel guilty for resting, to not feel guilty for hiding in the bathroom, maybe with a good book or something, whatever it
Yeah.
takes, because especially when you have little ones, they'll find you. So it is very important, Helena, that the woman realizes it's okay. And it's also okay to not be okay for a moment. Don't beat yourself up if you didn't get it right, or if you did something and you feel like, oh, what did I do? No, it's okay to not be okay for a moment. No one said
Yeah.
you have to be perfect, right?
Exactly. I used to teach laughter class before pandemic and the pandemic, and I have a lady that she was always typical that I have to do laundry, I have to do this, I have to do that, and she never relaxed and take care. When after start coming to the laughter class, she told me the story that her husband told her that if it was no more classes and then during the week that she can go because she start coming down and healing and taking time for rest and sit down. She will be the first one to get up, the last one to go to bed and keep doing it. No, it's because this needs to be done. And then he noticed that she was gonna say, and then the husband was the one saying, "Hey, take it easy. You need to rest. You need to take care." But I guess it's how we are bringing and our beliefs. But I thank you for all the work you do helping so many women, and there's a lot to do. And so how we can help all as a woman, where would you recommend that like to reach, how we can reach out more people, and of course do it ourselves,
Mhm.
inspiring others. But in your experience, you work so much with so many women already, how we can work better.
One of the best things that you can do, because it's all communication, it's how you communicate with yourself and others. The best thing you can do is be a really good listener. No judgment. When someone comes to you and says that they're feeling down, confused, scared, whatever word, simply listen to them, and let them feel that trust, right? That they're not being judged. That's the most important thing. And it's very challenging, especially if it's your family, Helena. It is a bit of a challenge because there's different programmings already, there's history behind that, right? So
Yeah.
when it's family, sometimes they don't know if they can trust. And it's kind of like a give or take there. So my recommendation is to just listen without judgment, that everybody carries their own pain in different way, and there's no greater, there's no you know lesser. We're all here just trying to do the same thing, is live our life to the fullest, be of service where we can. And if we do have a day off where we're not in our best mood, or we feel a little discombobulated, is one of my favorite words, just start over the next day. It's not a big deal. Don't beat yourself up.
And do you believe that one word that comes to my mind is also forgiving? Sometimes we live a guilt all our lives, and we feel guilty again about doing self care. And so,
Helena, that one touched. Let me tell you something. In trauma, very important thing. First thing that we are taught in different therapies is to forgive. And it can go a little deeper. It can start with forgiving. First of all, it's not even about forgiving everybody else. It's forgiving yourself, because we tell ourselves, we beat ourselves up. Why did I do that? Why did I allow that? Why did I leave? Why did I tolerate? Why was I an enabler? Whatever words, right? And
yeah.
we don't have forgiveness. We don't give ourselves grace. There's two words that I use very often with people that come to me. It's have grace and gratitude. Grace and gratitude. Those cover a lot. So when you get to that point of forgiveness, there's nothing to forgive other people. Let's remember, first and foremost, hurt people hurt people. And if other people did something to you, it's it's really not about you. It's because they're hurting. But the second thing is forgive yourself, because we didn't know any better either. When I got married at 16, I thought I was all grown up. What baby at 18, and I thought, I every stage of my life, I think I know a little better, and maybe I do just a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. We're all in this together, just trying to get back home and just doing our best to live as carefree as we can without hurting anyone, right? So,
Exactly.
so forgive yourself, and then you'll get to the point that you realize there really wasn't anything to forgive because you didn't know any better. That's the one thing I will tell you that everyone here is guilty of. Everyone on this planet that goes through any kind of trauma, that goes through any kind of pain, the only thing they're guilty of is doing the best that they can with what they have at the moment because
Exactly.
they know. So the more awareness, the more you realize how you operate and why and how this brain works and where the thoughts go, then you can make better choices based on the clarity that you find within yourself.
And that's suffering and comes a lot of trauma also when you have a children, and then or we blame or we got blamed for things that maybe they were done wrong on their own mind. But all I say, my kids, I did what I could with I have, what I knew, and I did with love. And I'm sorry for somehow I hurt, but at this, and that's the same thing what you're doing is you're doing your best as a son, as a daughter, and whatever you know and whatever you're evolving. And as long we make conscience about that, I think that we can grow up, no? These things.
Yeah. And the trauma, I mean, there are very severe types of trauma. And excuse me if anyone here has really gone through that. I have, but I've already left that in the past, and I discuss it or talk about it when people have classes one-on-one and they really want to know. So trauma is serious. However, if we really want to get to the core of it, trauma is simply our perception of life.
Exactly.
The cancer that I got and everything that I went through, and I was in excruciating pain. That's how I discovered it. The pain was the first feeling that I got that alerted me to go get checked. So my point to that is, remember this phrase, that everything that's happening in your environment outside of you is not happening to you, it's happening for you. And you can turn it into a blessing. It is possible.
It's beautiful because when we learn that there are things that we can control, and the only thing we can control is whatever is that with mind, my opinion, my perception, my emotions, mine. You cannot control anything outside of you. When we get to that point, I guess we can do better. We
Oh,
have a couple comments here. And
yeah.
Rita say, I watched trauma and emotion trigger cancer in a couple people I know, and I figured out that had something to do with it. And then we have Carmen. They say, I am a 3-year-old breast cancer and brain tumor survivor. And after fighting this illness, I came to terms and understanding how I contributed for all stress and just being a caretaker for everyone and not working and loving me and really in a job for any of us. No, now we've been working on myself emotionally healing, but with such constant balance not to break my own rule. And I'm so thankful to be in this evening and so proud for you, Cora. And thank you for sharing your testimonial with us. So thank you. Thank you for sharing this. And we almost in time. So we got a few minutes, and we're gonna open the microphones for anyone who wants to ask Cora any questions or make a comment on just share a story. Is you're welcome to do that.
Yes. And just as a reminder, if you're not comfortable asking your question here now that we're live, in a few minutes when we stop the live, we will
Yes.
be in the after party and you can ask anything. No one's going to hear us there, just in case if there's some questions that are a bit more delicate. But if anybody has any comments or questions,
Actually, I do. Um,
Go
to,
ahead.
yeah, today is October 21st. So today has been 2 years that I was diagnosed with breast cancer on my right breast, and I'm a nurse. And after talking to two different opinions. My friend is one of my friends. She's a physician and a hospice physician, and she said you have to go to Moffitt. I don't know if you all know that hospital, the father of all the cancers. Anyway, I did go, and I choose to have a complete mastectomy without a reconstruction, and that was my choice. My question to, or my comment to Cora is, until now that I'm listening to what she has to say, I was feeling uncomfortable, not because everything you have say, but the opposite. I have been feeling or thinking, oh my God, I must be crazy because I should be feeling more sad because of what happened to me. But perhaps because I am the one who take care of my family, my sisters and my mom, maybe I did have time to feel that way. But I had never feel sad, or I went through the whole emotions of having the cancer, the surgery. Yes, I did not have to have any chemo. All my tests were low. My ankle test was 0. And up to now, I was feeling guilty of not feeling what everybody was feeling.
Mm.
I don't know. Do you have anything, any comment for me?
I-
I don't feel guilty.
Hmm?
I feel guilty not feeling like any other woman that have cancer.
Right. Beautiful. Well, let me see. What is your name? I want to make sure Berta.
Berta. Uh-huh.
Berta.
Berta.
Okay. Well, I can go ahead and extend that a little bit more when we go off the live. But right now, first and foremost, congratulations.
We are no longer live, just so you know. I
Say again.
just turned off the live. The live is now done, and I'm going to turn off the recording to allow you guys to have the freedom to talk without fear. Okay?
Okay.
Perfect. Okay,
Beautiful.